The Wednesday week is sponsored by Bentoria.com. That's BENTORIA.com.
There's a chance here, a great save, a turner from McClare. Might come, a terrific goal by Sheridan.
Brentman against Jones. Get in.
You could have two goalkeepers in there that would have trouble saving that.
Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and a very warm welcome to the Wednesday week, the Sheffield Wednesday podcast. I'm Lord Hillsborough, and we're a bit of a duo this evening because on the other side of the line we've got James. Hi there, James, or Bean.
It's a bit lonely in here, isn't it?
Oh, well, but I can send some of my ladies round to cheer up if you like.
Does this mean that I'm expected to try and be the funny one as well tonight? Because I'm not very good at that.
Our listeners don't listen to us for fun. Oh, Bean listens for hard football news, but I'm sure we can handle the news that we've got there, James. Oh boy, I apologise to our Eddie, Fudge and Victoria fans out there, but we seem to be not able to get a hold of anybody, so I'm assuming they've all been kidnapped and myself and James will receive ransom notes in due course. Anywho, let's crack on, shall we, Jay? We've got quite a bit to get through. First of all, we'll start with the Leeds match, shall we? Because I must admit, I was a little bit wary about this. The thought of the derby spirit does tend to get in the way of these sort of things, and the first 10 minutes was great, and then the rest of the first half wasn't marvellous, really, was it?
No, I mean they're always really hard to call, aren't they? Any kind of derby match is hard to call because you look at it on paper, and Leeds' form has been, should we say, wobbly at best. They've been up and they've been down. Yeah. They've been on some good runs and some bad runs, and as they've got into January, it's become apparent that they're going to end up selling some of their best players. I think one of them's already gone. So it was a really weird match because, or going into the game, it was a weird match because it just felt like we really should win. But games against Leeds, I mean, goodness, last year they came and they won 2-1. The year before we beat them 6-0. So you just can't call them, can you? Same as you, really. I think the game kind of started and it didn't really settle into too much of a pattern. I think Leeds actually played some decent stuff. We didn't quite get into our rhythm, certainly in the first half. I think that it just wasn't the usual kind of nice flowing stuff that we've seen our boys play so much this season. And I think it's fair, for one, Steve Evans probably called it right that Leeds were on top in the first half. Maybe a little bit unlucky, and I've got a couple of Leeds fans at work, and as we've talked about the game, I've said it was kind of like a story of two goalmouth scrambles, because Leeds had their goalmouth scramble in the first half, which I've watched it back on the TV so many times, and I still just look at it and just think, how did that ball not go in the back of the net? It defies logic. I don't understand how they didn't score.
Well, I think Mr. Price, we were all a little bit worried about him when we saw his name on the team sheet, weren't we? But crikey. Well,
maybe his slightly enlarged frame kind of helped us out there, came to the rescue a little bit because I don't know what it was, but he got something in the way of the ball and it didn't go in, and we knocked it away to safety. And then in the second half, right at the start of the second half, and I must confess, I actually missed this goal live because I was still finishing off my Guinness, but did see it on the TV, which was about 10 seconds behind. So we heard the crowd, we knew that we'd scored before we actually managed to see the goal on the TV. But yeah, that was our little goalmouth scramble, and the ball ends up in the back of the net, and it was scrappy. I think huge credit to Fernando Forestieri for the fact that he was actually on the floor with two defenders around him, still managed to get up, keep the ball, and put a cross in that we score from. And you know what? That's the difference, isn't it? We had that little bit of quality from a player like Forestieri, who was great, and we had that little bit of luck. Same with the second goal. It was a little bit of luck. On another day, the keeper grabs that, holds it, and it's not a goal. But as it happened, keeper spilled it. Who's in the right place at the right time? Again, Gary Hooper, and he's not going to miss from there. So there were two far from extravagant goals, but they all count, don't they?
No,
and maybe
absolutely.
we've been spoiled, haven't we? We're so used to these amazing 30, 35-yarders that we score 2 scrappy goals and we're like, feels like we've lost.
No, you're right. I mean, the thing that you said there, and a lot of people have said, is Gary Hooper in the right place at the right time. But that little sort of striker's instinct, if you like, to follow Fessie's shot in and be there it is the sort of sign of a good striker. You look at Shearer, your Linekers, your people like that. A lot of them were poachers' goals. That's why they got so many, and it came from following in shots and knocking him off the keeper. And it's brilliant playing. It's something we've not seen for a while with a sort of a proper striker, if you like.
Absolutely, and I mean, I kind of outed myself as a Gary Hooper fan a fair few weeks ago, probably before everyone else kind of jumped on that bandwagon, if you like.
Oh, I know, when they were just starting out. You sound like a band member.
No, I think he'd not even scored for us when I first said, look, there's something in this kid. Just bear with him, let him get into his flow, and once he's fully fit, we'll see something from him. And I'm not pleased because it means that I'm right. I'm pleased because it means he's banging the goals in. And
no,
six in six is a great return for any striker. To be honest, scoring every game is brilliant. But for someone that puts in the work rate that he does and the movement and everything like that, and I talk about this every week, and I'm sure I sound like a bit of a broken record. But the fact that as we talk now, late on Wednesday evening, all the suggestion on Twitter is that it could be that a deal is more or less done, and it could be that Thursday might be the day that a contract is signed and that he becomes our player full time. And honestly, I'm sure we'll talk about it a little bit more later on. I couldn't be more pleased about that because I think he really is a huge part of what this team's become in the last couple of months. I think he forms a huge part of it.
No, absolutely. And I've been one of his biggest, not so much critics, well, I suppose you could say that, really. The old Hooper or Pooper tweet, I've popped on there a few times. It didn't have the greatest of starts, and I'm glad that I've been proved wrong. I really am. He's turned into a cracking striker. Clearly, he's not had a huge amount of game time at Norwich, and he's just needed that sort of time to settle in, and I'm sure his dad will be incredibly pleased.
Good old Gary Hooper's dad.
Of course, other sort of incidents, if you like. We can't talk about the Leeds match without speaking about the goal that never was, which was utter nonsense. And of course, we can't talk about the goal that never was without mentioning that Mr. Evans didn't see it because he was visiting the facilities, shall we say?
Caught short. I mean, where do you start on this? I mean, it's sort of wonderful. I mean, first things first, from a serious point of view, it wasn't the rules of the game are pretty simple, which is that the game cannot restart until the substitution's been made. As soon as the referee blows the whistle for a substitution to take place, he can't just decide it's taking too long, I'm going to restart the game. He can blow the whistle, tell the player to hurry up and get off the pitch. He can go and book them if he wants to do that. He can't just restart the game because he wants to. So it was clearly a mistake by the referee who, for a second, lost his mind, forgot that a substitution was taking place, restarted the game, and he gave the goal originally, and then thought, "Hang on, what's going on here?" Realised he'd done something wrong, and he put it right. As far as I'm concerned, case closed. That's that.
Absolutely.
The fact that it's Leeds and the fact that it's Steve Evans makes it a little bit sweeter. And rather than it just being he made a mistake, he's corrected it, and everyone gets over it. I think we've probably taken a little bit of pleasure in what happened, particularly seeing Steve Evans with his slightly manic interview after match, where he was talking about us chopping them off or whatever it was that he said. And then, of course, it becomes apparent that he missed it because he'd gone for a wee. I mean, you cannot make this stuff up. It's brilliant. And there's that great shot as well of when he does eventually come back down the tunnel and he's got no idea what's happened. He thinks it's 2-1. And his assistant manager, Paul Rayner, who through my work I used to have, not direct dealings with, but used to know quite a bit about from when he was his assistant at Rotherham. And he is equally animated and with all due respect to him, when you're the team that's playing against the team that he's assistant manager of, probably equally dislikable as Steve Evans is. So you've got him flapping around, Steve Evans flapping around, and it's just I've rewound that and watched that time and time again because it's brilliant. It is brilliant.
The funniest bit to me about that is when Mr. Evans is coming out of the tunnel and he's actually still sort of hiking up his undergarments, if you like. It's just brilliant. And one thing, of course, that we have to mention as well is that the actual goal itself was clearly handball. When the cross came over, it was handball. So Leeds fans, even if the goal should have been allowed, it shouldn't have been allowed because it was a handball. So get your sense chuffed.
Yeah, and one tweet that I saw about it, which I thought was a brilliant point, and I kind of wish someone had asked this to Steve Evans, is let's imagine that the free kick gets taken and we knock it clear. Fernando is stood on the halfway line. He's therefore onside. There's no one near him. He gets the ball, takes it to the end, sticks it in the back of the net. Is Steve Evans going to stand there going, well, the goal counts? Or is he going to stand there going, he's supposed to be off the pitch, chop that one off, let's go back down the other end and take the free kick again? So, it's just sour grape. Other stuff that I loved about the game as well, and three other things, and they're all from Twitter that I've are in my favourites and will stay there forevermore. I think there's a few people that posted this that towards the end of the first half, there's a brilliant video doing the rounds of Carlos's reaction to Steve Evans throwing a paddy about something or other, and it's Carlos just standing there, basically just staring at Steve Evans and having a bit of a laugh, and it's brilliant. If you, it's Owls2K is the person on Twitter that I saw it from.
Funny.
It's brilliant, and it's just it's the look on Carlos's face. The difference in class between those two is summed up in the space of 15 seconds.
I can only assume that it was doing the Portuguese equivalent of what the chuff is he on about?
Yeah, it was just brilliant, absolutely fantastic. The Instagram post from Fessy, which at first I saw it and didn't think anything of it, and then it was someone else that posted it on Twitter alongside the story from early on in the summer where Leeds claimed that they'd ended their pursuit of Forestieri because they questioned his mentality. And then Fessy posted a picture of him with his Man of the Match award saying, great win today. The whole team had the, quote, right mentality, end quote, to win the 3 points, which I just thought was brilliant. Absolutely fantastic. Such a subtle dig from our Fessy there.
Of course, after the game, there was the photographs of Fessy in his leg brace, which was a little bit worrying. I'm assuming that's the reason he was brought off of the pitch. Probably, quite possibly, where that little injury came from is after the first goal, he did sort of run and smash one of the advertising orders as well, didn't he?
He gave it a right belt, didn't he? He really did. Can I mention as well I know that at the moment newspapers are top of your favourite list, Lord, but the just the little piece that the Yorkshire Post tweeted, which was unrelated to be honest, but they tweeted the headline was Forestieri responds to Leeds owner Cellino's jibe, and then it's a picture of Fessy sticking two fingers up on both hands. Which I assume that someone somewhere in their social media team has a seriously good sense of humour, unless that's purely by fluke. But that was brilliant.
Oh, absolutely, top draw, really is. So of course it's always nice to be at Leeds, isn't it? It wasn't I don't think any of the two games we've played them this season have been particularly derby affairs, if you like, but it's just nice that we've not dropped any points from, basically. Of course, the first one was a draw, second one with those 3 points, and it sort of popped us up into the playoff position as well, hasn't it? Which is lovely.
Which is very nice indeed, and I'm doing my absolute bestest not to get too excited about that because it is the first time since I think the first game of the season, and you know my opinion on league tables at that point. But yeah, we seem to have been stuck in 7th for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks. So to actually make it up to 6th is brilliant. And if you're going to finish in the playoffs, then you're better off being in 6th than you are in 7th in the middle of January. It gives you a much better chance.
Absolutely.
But I tell you what, me and Vic, and we'll hopefully be able to tell you more about this in the next couple of weeks, because we don't know a massive amount about it yet. But if you recall from earlier in the season when we were down at Brentford, and I went for a few drinks, I say a few, quite a lot of drinks, with some guys from Besotted, which is the Brentford podcast. Now, they're also involved in a thing called the 72 Review, which is a fairly new kind of YouTube channel, which I think has got something to do with Ian Wright that's just starting up. And basically, they were doing a bit of a documentary about the contrasting fortunes of Wednesday and Leeds. So both me and Vic were interviewed for that before the match and at half-time. Now, hopefully, the video of that will come on board at some point, and we'll be able to post that, and anyone that wants to watch it can do. But what was really interesting about that is, as we were talking about the Leeds game and about how much it means for us to win, and I said, do you know what, it does, but at where we are at the moment in our season and in the league, all that really matters is 3 points. The fact that we get one over on Leeds, I don't really care about at the moment, because we've got a real shot this season at going for it. So yeah, it was nice for us to beat Leeds. And, if you could pick a team to beat every week, of course you're going to pick Leeds, aren't you? That goes without saying. But let's just remember the fact that it was 3 points, and that's what really, really matters, is that, we can have a game where maybe we don't play brilliantly. And, if a Leeds fan turns around to me and says that they were the better team on Saturday, I'd probably say, do you know what, fine. If you want to say that I'm not going to argue with you. I don't, I can't remember enough about the match to be able to put up a convincing argument that it wasn't. But we got 3 points, and that's all that matters.
Absolutely. Oh, no. Jeeves, we're going to need some more equipment.
Then you need to speak to Oddballs, a speciality.
What the?
Oddballs, a speciality deal in steel, food, and engineering equipment.
Where's that voice coming from?
We offer great deals on all types of equipment and can include dismantling, delivery, and erection anywhere in the world.
Did he just say erection?
We can also buy your surplus equipment or sell it on commission. With over 30 years' experience, let us achieve the best deal for you.
Where can I find out more, Voice in the Sky?
Go to www.bentoria.com.
You heard him, folks. Jeeves, get a broom. Right then, James, so let's crack on, shall we? Of course, it's January, the transfer window is firmly open, and we've started to sign a few players, quite a lot of them we've already got.
Yeah, it was so we recorded the podcast. It was Wednesday again last week, wasn't it?
It was, yes, due to the Tuesday night game.
Right. Well, we can now be fairly confident that our chairman, Mr. Chansiri, is a big listener to the podcast, because he waited until the moment we'd finished recording to start chucking contracts at basically anyone that went in his office. That seems to be what's happened, because in the meantime, and in the very quick aftermath of us doing last week's podcast, that's 5 players that we've signed up, isn't it? So obviously Barry Bannon was the first one, which we sort of knew was going to happen, but it was dragging on a bit. And I think where as Wednesday fans, we've been through enough in previous years to sort of reserve the right to be a little nervous when something doesn't happen very quickly. So we were all probably just starting to ever so slightly think the worst about that. And of course, it quickly becomes apparent that it's done. 3.5 years, which is just brilliant. And I think we can probably fairly safely say that whatever business we do in January now, that was probably the most important signing that we will make this January, because he has changed this team. We were losing games before Barry Bannon came along. At the start of our good form was when he started playing in the team, and those two things are not just purely coincidence. The effect that he's had on this team is massive, and getting him signed up was absolutely huge. Then I think we got confirmation of the Jack Hunt transfer, which we talked about last week. We sort of knew that was going to happen. Then we got Sam Hutchinson, I think, after that, which we didn't kind of see coming, but I think we all kind of hoped that it would do.
Cracking bit of news, that one, absolutely.
Yeah, and then very quickly after that, we had Glenn Louvens and we had Ati Nui, who I can't remember what order they were all in. But tell you what's brilliant about this is it's us, normally we get into the summer, we seem to be quite late offering contracts to players. They see that they either wait a long time before signing them, or the club waits until very close to the start of the season before announcing that they've signed their contracts. to have the key players tied up by the second week of January is brilliant. And how much we could just go into this summer so much more relaxed now.
Well, cynical people, unlike myself, might say that it is sort of does coincide quite nicely with the new season ticket renewal deals, of course. But again, if that's what people want to get excited about, Bannon's is a Premiership player. We want to see him in the Premiership League, and quite simply, those people that have purchased a season ticket for the next 3 years are probably going to see that, aren't they?
Yep.
It's a fair play to the club, and it's just cracking business sense. We'll normally mention it a little bit later, but the club did pop a little sort of tweet out there saying they're very close to their 500th signing for a new season ticket as well, which is brilliant business, really, isn't it?
Yeah, it's really good, and like you say, I think you probably could think, is the club signing players up now to sell season tickets? If that's the case, I have absolutely no problem with that whatsoever, because if us signing these 5 players up means that you think you've got enough faith now to go buy a season ticket, that's great for both parties. That's wonderful.
Absolutely.
It's us saying we are going to have the players. Probably the only one of those 5 that people might be a little about is Atty, because you're always going to get people that don't rate him. The Atty haters are always going to be there, but I don't think anyone can deny the fact that he's played a huge role this season, particularly in the last few weeks. Actually, he's really started to come into his own, and the players that he's got around him, I think, have really allowed him to focus on the parts of his game that he really shines at.
Obviously, I'm a huge Atty fan. Everybody knows that, for his off the ball work, if you like. But apparently, his sort of off the pitch work is brilliant as well. He's sort of somewhat of a father figure in the dressing room, and we've noticed a few times when people are sticking in these thunder chuffers, the first person to run to is Atty, isn't it? Even if he's not on the pitch.
Yeah, I think it was you that tweeted that, Lord, actually. And I never noticed that before, but that is true, that everyone does seem to run to Atty. And he's obviously a big personality, and he seems to be a popular guy. And I mean, strangely enough, he's probably one of our longest serving players now, isn't he? Because you have such a turnaround of players in the football club. He seems to know the club pretty well. He seems to like the club. And, even if we get promoted to the Premier League, will Atty Nuhiu be a major part of the team? You could argue probably not, but he's a good asset in a lot of ways, because he's a player that we could quite easily loan out if we did decide that maybe he's not quite right and he's not going to get near the first team in the future. I'm sure there are tons of clubs that would jump at the chance to take him on loan, and they'd cover his wages. So offering him a new contract, I think it'd become a no-brainer. And fair play to him, because I think a few months ago, a lot more people, probably myself included, would have said, Atty coming to the end of his contract this summer, it's time for him to go. And he's earned himself that new contract with some of his performances over the last couple of months.
Absolutely. Of course, you touched on it earlier, James. The Gary Hooper debacle sort of rumbles on, doesn't it? One thing that people had been noticing on Twitter today is that Mr. Hooper had changed his profile picture back to himself in a Norwich shirt rather than the Wednesday shirt he had on there as well. And a lot of people took that as rather a bad omen, didn't they?
Yeah, I mean, that's it's an interesting way of deciding whether or not someone's going to sign for a football club, isn't it? He is a Norwich City player right now as things stand, so why would he not have a picture of him in a Norwich City shirt on his Twitter? Yeah, I mean, look, it's these things are complicated, aren't they? And we have no idea how negotiations work between football clubs. We have no idea how negotiations work between club and player, and where the agent fits into that. It could be that Gary Hooper's agent has told him, tell you what to do, change your Twitter picture to you in a Norwich shirt, and then the club will get loads of stick on Twitter, and they'll push through the deal and not let it drag on any further if we're holding out to play a little bit less or something like that. So you don't take any notice of stuff like that. It might be someone somewhere playing games. We'll never know. And what does it matter? All that matters is that we got the David Garrido Sky Sources tweet. That's good enough for me.
Absolutely.
And if that gets finished tomorrow, I know I've already said that Barry Bannon's the most important signing that we'll make this January. I think Hooper could be a very close second, because his effect on the team is huge, and we know the stats on the goals that we score when he's in the team compared to when he's not in the team. So dead important. and a real sign of intent as well, because he's not going to come cheap. We're going to be talking the best part of 3 million, maybe even 3.5 million for a transfer fee, which will be the highest we've played in a long time. Obviously with Forestieri, but he's going to be a fair old whack on wages as well. And I'm just really pleased that we are showing that ambition, that the chairman thinks we've got a crack at doing it this season. Let's get those players in, and Hooper has a huge role to play in the remainder of this season.
No, absolutely. Of course, that's all speculation still, although usually when Mr. Guido tweets something, it generally tends to happen, doesn't it? One sort of indisputable fact is that we have now signed Joe Bennett on loan from Villa, a left-back. So I can only see this really as sort of cover for Mr. Poodle. The chat that Rob Staten had with him on Radio Sheffield, he sounds like an hungry lad, doesn't he? Ready to play football. He says he's not had a brilliant time at Villa, I don't think, has he? He had a cracking time while he was at Middlesbrough before he went to Villa, but since then he's not played a huge amount of football, has he?
No, I don't think he has. They don't seem to have warmed to him up there, and a few people on Twitter and stuff have been making a bit of a deal about that and saying, he's hated by Villa fans. And you think it's not that long since Crystal Palace fans were telling us how absolutely rubbish Barry Bannon is, and thank God someone's taken him off our hands. So,
and Leeds fans with Leeds,
and Leeds fans with Tom Lees. So let's take that with a pinch of salt. I did see a brilliant tweet that I've got to mention. Andy Parsons, long-time friend of the podcast, he tweeted saying that an Aston Villa fan at work says that Joe Bennett is, quote, absolutely garbage. Still, at least that means he's light years better than John Besweatherick. Great tweet and great point. And look, this guy is going to be cover, isn't he? He's not. I don't think he's going to be our first choice left back. Is it fair to assume that this means that probably someone's on their way out, and that's probably going to be Wiggins? He doesn't seem to have really settled into the club too well, and I've seen some people saying that he's not really settled into life up north too well and wants to go back down south. So I suspect that we'll probably see him leave either permanently or on loan or something like that, and then Bennett becomes our second choice left back to provide a bit of respite for Poodle, who works exceptionally hard and is going to be tired at some points during the season.
Well, the other thing is, of course, if Mr. Bennett does come into the team, it also frees Poodle up to sort of come into the centre, doesn't it? Because we've all been quite aware of the issues that we've got at centre back at the moment, and of course Poodle's played that position before, so it's another option for Carlos as well, isn't it?
Who's to say that he's not going to come in and do a really good job for us, and he's another player that we end up looking at trying to take on a permanent deal. I think he said in his interview that he's quite open to the idea if it goes well for him. He wants to be playing in the Premier League, but he's open to the idea of that being with us. So I think it's got to be a good move for us.
No, absolutely. Right then, James, it's pure speculation time now because these.
Oh, this is the bit that I love. Are we going to talk about Jordan Rhodes for the 12 millionth time now?
Shall we quickly brush over Jordan Rhodes? Of course, Danny Graham has gone to Blackburn on loan from Sunderland, and the forever linked Jordan Rhodes with Sheffield Wednesday and Middlesbrough, as always, has appeared once again. The Sky reporting it, etc., etc., etc. Figure that's been bandied about, £12 million. What do you think, James? First of all, is Jordan Rhodes worth £12 million? Secondly, are we willing to pay £12 million?
Transfer fees are funny things, aren't they? Because if you're signing a player on a 5-year contract and you work out the cost over that period, and you're paying basically $3 million a year for a player like Rhodes, is that outrageous? I don't know. It's hard to really get your head around. Is he worth 12 million quid? No. It's been so interesting just following the debate about this on social media because, as we said earlier on, it's only a matter of months ago that people were kind of saying that Hooper was rubbish and why have we got him and why we're paying him 30 odd grand a week. And then, everything that I've seen this week has been from people saying we don't need Rhodes. All we need is to get Hooper signed up and we're sorted. And I don't disagree with that. I think if we do get Hooper signed up, you would then look at it and go, right, it's not like we're struggling to score goals. It's not like we're drawing games that we should be winning. We're on a really good run of form. We're winning games when we should be winning games. And the games that we're not winning are because of other things. They're not because we can't score goals. The stat that still stands is there's only one game this season that we've lost where we've not scored a goal. Even the games that we lose, we still score. Is having Jordan Rhodes in the team going to make that big a difference that it is worth absolutely blowing our budget out of the water for? No, I don't think it is. The other thing as well is that, I don't think that that's the kind of money that we're playing with. I think that anyone that genuinely thinks that we've got 12 million quid to spend is in cloud cuckoo land. I just don't think that we have. And I may be proved wrong on that. It may be that we will go out and do it. I think I could foresee a situation where we played maybe £7 or £8 million for a striker. And I think, that was the kind of money that we were maybe playing with when we were in for people like Ross McCormack earlier in the season.
Yeah.
And maybe when we originally went in for Jordan Rhodes. And it may be that we've gone back to Blackburn and said, look, here's the offer on the table again. We'll give you £8 million, but that's that. If you want 12 million, well then do some business with Middlesbrough because we're not interested. And if we can get him for a lower amount of money, then yeah, by all means bring him in. The only thing here is we're going to have so many players in this squad. How the heck are we going to play everyone? If you sign Jordan Rhodes, you've got to play him every week.
Well, for that kind of money, you'd expect to play him on a weekend just for fun as well, wouldn't you? It's a crazy amount of money. And, of course, the other one that's been bandied about, which he's I wouldn't like to say likely, but it's been bandied about again, is Aidan McGeady from Everton as well, a left midfielder that's coming in. We're going to have more midfielders than fans soon, aren't we?
Yeah, left wing's been an interesting position for us, hasn't it? Because we've got Ross Wallace, who is clearly a right-handed wing player, and our left side of midfield has kind of been covered by players that aren't really kind of out and out left wingers. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
So, players like Bannon and Forestieri have kind of been playing down the left. I don't think we have someone who is an out and out left sided midfield player. So yeah, I think that could be another good move. I've got to be honest. There's another player that if we bring him in, I don't think he'll go straight in the team. I think he'll have to fight for his place because I'm not sure there's anyone in our midfield at the moment that you would say is worthy of. Who would you drop from that midfield at the moment? But yeah, it could be. Yeah, I'm kind of hoping that maybe we do go more down the route of getting him in on loan rather than spending a few million quid on him, and maybe look to do a deal at the end of the season if he does a good job for us. Or, yeah, I mean, when we brought in Bannon, it was a bit of a risk, but we did it as a short-term deal. It worked, so we made it a long-term deal. It would kind of make sense to do something similar with a player who's out of favour with his club. There's no doubt at all that he's a good footballer.
Yeah, absolutely.
He seems to be very talented. He's out of favour with Everton. He needs a change to kind of further his career, and from what I can gather, I think he'd prefer to stay in the Premier League, but the offers aren't really forthcoming. So maybe a drop down to the Championship, rediscover his love for the game might be a good thing for him.
No, certainly.
And he's a great option for us to bring off the bench.
And the one thing that we haven't really seen, which I'm really quite surprised about, is a proper sort of centre-back rumour.
It kind of takes us back a little bit to the conversation that we had last week with regards to James Tarkowski at Brentford.
Absolutely.
Where we said, if we're going to spend a huge amount of money on a defender, it needs to be someone that's of the right age, and that we're confident has got enough ability to become the centre-back pairing for Tom Lees. And I just wonder whether or not, rather than a kind of a bit of a budget approach of just getting someone in as cover, that what they're actually looking to do is bring in the right player as and when that opportunity comes up, and maybe that will involve spending a bit of money on bringing in someone that is the right player. It was quite interesting to see on Friday night that Tarkowski refused to play for Brentford, which it's not something we see that happen very often.
It's a strange one, that one, isn't it?
Yeah, and from what I can gather, I know that we did talk a little bit last week about us being linked with him. It looks fairly nailed on that Burnley is going to be his destination. So the fact that he refused to play for his current club against his prospective new club. I'm not sure about that. It's not great form, is it?
You'd imagine there's be some kind of contractual obligation that says if you pick your plane, get chuffed. It's just such a slap in the face to every Brentford fan down there, isn't it?
Didn't he say that it was something to do that his state of mind wasn't correct?
I'd love to money for his state of mind.
I'd love to ring my boss tomorrow morning and just say, I'm sorry, my state of mind's not quite right to come to work today, so I'm just going to stay at home and sit on the sofa. Is that all right?
If I was your boss, I'd let you get away with anything. Right then, ladies and gents, so let's crack on with a bit of Wednesday news. And the first little bit of Wednesday news we've got is a bit of good news for the podcast. Mr. Jeff Stelling is popping to Hillsborough on his walk around the country. Of course, can we officially say Jeff, friend of the podcast now, James?
He knows all of us by name. He texted me yesterday to ask if he could pop to mine for a cuppa before the match. I said I'm a little bit busy that morning, but you know what? I'll try and change my plans, and you can pop round. No, it'd be nice this morning. I mean, we've got photos of us sat in his chair in the Soccer Saturday studio. So
licking his tie.
It's only right that we let him into our football stadium, isn't it?
Of course, we do have to mention the reason he's coming to Hillsborough is to help raise awareness around prostate cancer, which is fantastic, of course, and fair play to him for doing it. But everybody loves a bit of Jeff, don't they? Crikey. So, yes, we'll be happy to see you there. Right then, ladies and gents. So, next little thing on the agenda, and I'm a little bit loath to mention it really because it's me getting a little bit annoyed on Twitter with one of our local newspapers. Those that follow me on Twitter will have seen this. They did a bit of a story about a young lad who was a 11-year-old, came to Hillsborough in the academy, signed a contract, left, and now there's rather a lot of money if he would like to go and play for somebody else, and of course it's hampered his career. Now, don't get me wrong, football is horrible when it comes to signing children. It's not something I agree with. However, at the same time, if we are signing players that young and we're going to sort of coach them and groom them and that kind of thing up until being 16 or whatever age they might be, there has to be some connection with the club, because when your bigger clubs, your Premiership clubs, just come along and say, oh, thanks for training that young lad for the last 5 years, we'll take him now, and there's no financial recompense for the club. Now, that's a completely different debate. I have no problems with the family, no problems with the kid. Best of luck to him. It's awful. It really is awful. And I apologise to any of my Twitter followers that thinks I've been going on about this, and I don't mean to. But I just think it's wrong. Just sort of squaring this at Sheffield Wednesday, this seems to be something that is standard across football, and it seems to be us that getting slapped in the face for it. So, again, I don't want to talk too much about it because nobody wanted to come on and speak to us, so nobody seems to have a right for reply. I have tried sort of asking questions over Twitter, but what I would like to see is maybe a follow-up article, if you like, on other clubs on the patch and seeing what their policies are like, and if it's exactly the same, or if Sheffield Wednesday are this evil, nasty club. I apologise, James.
No, not at all.
I was going to brush over this. I seem to have my brush seems to have been a little bit thick, actually.
That's great. But following you on Twitter, the last few days has been a little bit like an episode of the Cook Report on the TV. It's like Roger Cook is alive and well and has actually turned into Lord Hillsborough. It's brilliant. It's been like a current affairs TV show. Fantastic.
I just have one simple question for any journalist that's listening. The only one question that I'd really like answered is can they see why Wednesday fans are so perturbed about this article? I understand the kids' plight. I understand the horribleness of football when it comes to children, but I just want to know if those journalists can understand why we're angry about it.
Look, I mean, it's weird. I worked as a journalist for 4 years, so I can. I'm not going to say that I can see both sides to it, because I worked for a different organisation and did things in a slightly different way. I could totally see why it has annoyed people the way that it has. I don't think that it's particularly something that's exclusive to this newspaper. I don't think it's something that's particularly exclusive against Sheffield Wednesday. It's a newspaper thing. Is if there's a positive line and a negative line, they'll take the negative line. Everyone who's had a bit of a go over the last 24, 48 hours about this has had a good right to have their say. It's been a really interesting debate. And all I kind of hope is that maybe some good comes of this, and the fact that there is a bit of debate about it might mean that someone somewhere looks at the way this system works and maybe reviews that and tries to figure out whether there's a better way of doing stuff. I appreciate that we've got a 16-year-old kid here who's obviously quite good at football and wants to play football. He seems like a nice enough lad. And it's it's a shame that that's the way the system is. But Sheffield Wednesday are doing exactly the same as what any other football club does in that situation. And the problem is you can't just excuse one because of certain circumstances, because there'll be certain circumstances every time, and every player would try and find a loophole and a way out of it. So it's a crap situation. It's a shame that it's been dragged through the public gaze in the way that it has done. I'm not really sure that's the way of doing it, but it's prompted an interesting debate, and let's hope that somewhere along the line some good comes from it.
Oh, absolutely. Again, the debate is there to be had. It's not the point of this story. That's not why I'm angry about this story. Point is, it's not a Sheffield Wednesday problem. It's a football problem. So if you're going to print stories like that, fine. Absolutely fine. Just make sure that you're going to do it for every single club in the region, every single club in the country. I don't know what Sheffield United's policy are on this. I don't know what Leeds' policy is on this. I don't know what Manchester United's policy is on this. But there is a standard thing out there for elite academies that is a contract they have to sign to make sure that if they are with a club, then another club isn't just going to come and go, right, brilliant, you've put 5 years work into this little lad, and I'm having him now. Bang, and that's it, done. It's a difficult situation, but it's not just ours.
Well said.
So, of course, let's go into a little bit more happy news, shall we, now, James?
Yeah.
Actually, it didn't start off too happy. During the Leeds game, there was a chap who got himself into some difficulty with heart problems, shall we say. Had a bit of a cardiac arrest, and the poor gentleman, I can only imagine how terrifying that must be, and he was receiving treatment from the paramedics in Hillsborough for quite some time, and eventually they had to sort of chop off his shirt and get him in the ambulance, and etc. Now, I wasn't at the Leeds game. In fact, I was out loading, so I wasn't even near a radio. I was following this on Twitter, and the reports I got was that the poor chap had passed away. Luckily, those reports were nonsense, so that's brilliant news. And Dave, who happened to be the name of the chap that got his this issue, shall we say, is happy, well, and now recovering in hospital. We've all seen the photos of him on the social medias, on the Facebooks, etc. And to sort of jam along a little bit extra, Mr. Chansiri has been to take him a new shirt after he's had it chopped off, which is fantastic.
It's absolutely lovely, and I can't quite decide whether or not Mr. Chansiri is just a very clever chap, or whether he is a genuinely lovely guy. Because this is great.
We shouldn't think like that these days, should we? We really shouldn't. We don't know if it's PR or just generally a nice man.
He didn't tell anyone that he was doing this, did he? And it's not an official club photograph that's been released. So, I think that my interpretation of this is that, this is something that he has gone to do off his own back because He feels it's a nice thing to do, and he's not after any publicity from it. He actually seems the most interesting thing about this has been the number of tweets that we've had from Leeds fans saying, "I can't believe that your chairman would do that. Our chairman would have gone and turned his life support machine on." Things along those lines. So yeah, it's lovely. It's really nice, and I think that often, and we've suffered from this as much as anyone. Football clubs are very often accused of being out of touch with the fan base and out of touch with their community, if you like. Even though all clubs kind of do stuff in the community, those little touches that we've seen, not just here but other things as well. You remember after the pre-season game at York where Mr. Chansiri got out of his car and posed for all the photographs and stuff like that.
Incredible.
It's nice to have that kind of feeling of the fact that we've got a chairman and owner that that seems to really care, and he cares about the little things as well. And good on him for going to see Dave in hospital, getting him a new shirt, which is lovely, and great to hear that Dave is well on the road to recovery. Now, I think probably following on from the story we were talking about just a moment ago, it has been quite funny on social media, picking up people who've been coming up with suggestions for the headline that could run if they were to cover this story. So these are people's suggestions for negative spins on our chairman going to visit the fan in hospital.
Okay.
And these are brilliant. And I'm not going to mention the people that have suggested these, just in case they get any kind of comeback or anything from it. So, but these are just some brilliant headline suggestions. So we've got penny pinching chairman only gives recovering fan one shirt, which is a good one. What else have we got? Man, I don't even know if I want to read this one out. Man pronounced dead visited alive and well by chairman.
The one that really, really made me chuckle was a chap that tweeted, and again, I don't use their names, a chap that tweeted, Chansiri goes and visits man in hospital and doesn't take grapes.
I've not seen that one. That's brilliant. So anyone that wrote any of those suggested headlines, give yourself a pat on the back, because I think they made us all smile a little bit today. And it's not a funny subject. You've got a guy here that's had a heart attack, but he's recovering well, and it's just nice to have that sort of nice feel around the football club, and the feeling that we're in touch, and we can have a little bit of fun with it as well.
Oh, absolutely, and all the best, Dave, from everybody, and of course all Wednesday fans. I'll be wishing you that as well. Right then, ladies and gents. So one last awfully sad piece of Wednesday news is the Wednesday's fan base lost a massive Wednesday fan last week as well. Darren Haig lost his fight with cancer, and unfortunately passed away last week. A lot of people know Darren over there on Twitter. He's a huge Wednesday fan. You'll pop over there now. You'll see photos of him with all the players, the gaffer, etc. He's been around the place quite some time, and it's awful that this has happened, and it's just another one of our own gone, isn't it?
Yeah, it's really sad news. He was well known among a lot of the Sheffield Wednesday fan base. He'd had a really awful time of it. I think it was his third battle with cancer, and such a shame that this time he just didn't have enough to kind of beat it again. But his memory will never be forgotten. I know that his family and friends are trying to arrange some kind of tribute at the next game that we play at Hillsborough. And I did notice as well that the East Midlands Owls have started a Just Giving page to try and raise £5,000 to keep Darren's memory alive and support his family during what's a difficult time for them. Just looking now, as things stand, they've raised, this is pretty incredible, they've raised £1,939 already.
Brilliant.
And that's just obviously in a matter of days. So, not far off being £2,000. To be fair, not far really off being half the way there, which I think is absolutely brilliant. And anyone that does want to have a look at that and donate, then if you go on Just Giving, you're searching for East Midlands Owls, and you'll be able to find their page and then make your donation through there.
The Wednesday Week is proud to be associated with Cavendish Cancer Care. Cavendish is a Sheffield charity dedicated to improving the quality of life for people living with cancer. No one should face cancer alone, so Cavendish provides emotional support through counselling and complementary therapies. The services they provide are free of charge and are funded through donations. If you can help or would like to find out more information, you can go to www.cavcare.org.uk. That's CAVCARE.org.uk. Right then, ladies and gents, so let's have a little look at our upcoming fixture against Reading, shall we? I think they are pretty much a mid-table team at the moment, aren't they?
They've not had a good season. They really haven't had a good season, and they've got a half decent squad there. They were in the Premier League not long ago, and they should be doing better. They've brought Brian McDermott back in as manager. I don't think it's kind of really happened for him yet either, and he's still finding his feet.
Does he still look like an egg?
Very much looks like an egg, yes. It's less funny now he's not Leeds manager. It was a lot funnier kind of taking the mick out of Brian McDermott. I actually don't mind the chap at all, but when he was Leeds manager, it was, the egg stuff was they obviously had a game on Tuesday night, which the positive of that is maybe they'll be a little bit tired, or a bit more tired than we will be, because we've had a full week, or more or less a full week from game to game. However, they did win in midweek, and they actually won pretty resoundingly after being 2-0 down at home to Huddersfield. They went on, they won the game 5-2.
That's given them a better gumption, isn't it?
Yeah, Mate Vidra scored a hat-trick as well, so he's banging form at the moment after a fairly slow kind of start to his time with Reading. So that's a positive and a negative in one, I suppose. The fact that they might be a little bit more tired, but they've got a guy there who's banging form. So yeah, it's as I think we say every week, it's a really tough one to call. We've got nothing to worry about going there. We know that we're capable of beating Reading. We can go there, I think, with plenty of confidence. If we play the way that we can play, then we should come away with something out of the game. The one good thing that I heard earlier on from someone was that apparently Westwood is back in training. There is a chance that he'll be fit for the game on Saturday.
Fantastic.
It might be a little bit of an outside chance, but that's what they're hoping, is that he might be fit for that game, because we are a little bit low on the ground when it comes to keeper options, aren't we, at the moment?
We are a little. Again, it's not something I'm terribly worried about, if I'm honest. Reading, we actually played Price at the Reading game when they came to Hillsborough. It was an awfully crappy, wet evening, which was before we all knew Joe Wildsmith powers when he's between the sticks. But that night at Hillsborough, it was an awful night. Reading were just doing what strikers do and cracking them in low and hard, and he had a decent game that night too.
I wish I could remember it. I think the only thing that I remember about it is that Reading were playing in a kind of a purple - pink kit.
Mauve.
And it was before we hit our form. So I seem to remember us being really, really poor. It was the game where Sugu scored a last-minute equaliser after their keeper dropped the ball. And I think before that, I don't think we'd had a single shot on target. We were really poor.
It wasn't what you call a memorable game, is it?
No. But, heck, we've changed so much since then, haven't we? And, we didn't have any idea who our best 11 was then. We now, we have a first choice 11 now that we, if we can play the majority of that team, then we know we can pretty much beat anyone. So, we go into it knowing it's a very different game to the one earlier in the season. And yeah, I'd like to say that I'm quietly confident that we'll bring back 3 points.
Shall we say, 8-0?
Only 8 this time.
No, absolutely. I don't think we've got anybody to fear at all in this league, have we? Home or away, when it comes to the Wednesday fans themselves, they're just incredible wherever we go, aren't they? Let's face it, absolutely unbelievable set of fans we've got. And the team at the moment, the team spirit, the fun that the players seem to be having, and the work rate. Again, one thing we sort of glanced over with the Leeds game. Did you see the little sort of snippet of Bannon running the whole way around?
Oh, wow, yeah.
That was incredible. It literally ran from sort of our half right through to the keeper, and all the way sort of halfway back again, and didn't manage to get the ball, but the pressing from the guy and the commitment it showed, if I'd have done that, I'd have been dead on the floor. It'd been, honestly, unbelievable. And that sort of team spirit, if you like, is really starting to shine through now at Hillsborough, isn't it?
What I don't understand about the thing with Bannon is that, I don't know did he have like some kind of accident when he was a kid, and there are certain like muscles and bones that he doesn't have, because I have not seen legs that move that fast. I assume that someone had like recorded that clip on there, on your iPhone now, where you can put it into that mode where it makes stuff go really fast. I thought that was because his legs were just moving it was like Roadrunner used to be on the TV.
It did look a little bit like the sort of the 1940s video clips that you see with legs going.
It was brilliant. But I mean, doesn't that if there's a moment that sums up what that team's about right now, it was probably that. Totally futile, but chasing every single little thing, and great clip. And you're right. The spirit around the club at the moment is top notch. It seems like all the players are really enjoying playing their football with Sheffield Wednesday. We know that Bannon had offers to go to the Premier League. He chose to sign for Sheffield Wednesday. We know that Joe Bennett had the opportunity to go to some Premier League clubs, but he wanted to come here on loan. It just feels like there's a really good atmosphere about the place at the moment, very positive feeling. And when you look at the teams that are there or thereabouts around the playoffs, you feel like we're the one that's really on the up at the moment. Brighton are in free fall. Ipswich are very hit and miss. They lost last night. So I think we've got to feel really confident at the moment that we're building something really good, really special, and it's great to be a part of it.
No, it really is, and you sort of get that feeling when these kind of things happen. We had it in the promotion season. We've had it, obviously, when we visited Cardiff. We certainly had it. Myself and James are unfortunately old enough to remember the 90s, way back when, and we sort of had it back then as well, didn't we? And you can tell the difference, but no, it's just brilliant feeling at the moment. And for those that the younger fans out there, enjoy it, because crikey, it can go really bad as well. So that's just about to bring us to an end to this week's proceedings. James, if people want to get hold of you over there on the online age, where can we do that, Albin?
As ever, on Twitter, I am at James Marriott. That is with 2 R's and 2 T's, as in the hotel. I don't own the hotel.
Because you're fancy.
I will be at Reading as well. I'm not sure what time we roll into Reading, but it's quite early. I think we're getting a train at about 7:30, so we'll get there about 9:30, something like that. I'm hoping the pubs open early in Reading, otherwise it's going to be a bit awkward. So yeah, anyone that's off to Reading and fancies meeting for a pint, very exciting, by the way, Lord, this week, that as well as our fancy muffs, which have been well documented, I now have a new microphone as well. For my muff to go on, which I may take with me to Reading. I'm a little bit worried about taking my mic to an away game because I do have a tendency to lose things at away games because I don't have as many people to look after me as I do when we're at Hillsborough. So,
normally a sensors.
Yeah, I may have my mic, may not, but still come and say hi and we'll have a chat.
Fantastic. Of course, if you want to get hold of me over there on Twitter, you can do that over there at Lord H. That's L0RD_H. If you'd like to get on the podcast, you can do that as well at TWWcast. Again, Dickie Owl is sorting out our social media these days, and I tell you what, he's doing a cracking job, isn't he, James? He's absolutely fantastic.
A grand job, yes. We passed, this might not sound like a lot to some people, but we passed 2,000 followers on Twitter this week. But that's a real big kind of step forward from where we were just a few weeks ago. So that's brilliant. So yeah, big thanks to Rich for that.
Absolutely, and of course the Facebook presence is much greater now as well. So if you are a Facebook fan, again, you can find us over there. Just pop in the Wednesday Week. Of course, we're over there on the YouTubes as well, and you know how to search the Wednesday Week on there. And of course, we're on iTunes and Podbean. Please do just click that little button on there that says subscribe, and you'll get myself and James fresh every week. Oh, there's nothing better than a fresh James, I'll tell you, ladies and gentlemen.
It's a rarity these days, I'll tell you.
It's been a pleasure as always. Thank you ever so much for joining us. Be good, be safe, and we shall see you real soon.
There's a chance here.